I just want to add to it. I want to address the international community. First, the UN. UN की Security Council की resolution है on protecting women and children during armed conflicts. And if states do not do that, or if states indulge in violence against women, the UN is entitled to sanctions. तो फिर सवाल उठता है, why is the UN not implementing those sanctions, which it is itself introduced through its UN Security Council resolution of women in armed conflict? पहली बात वो. दूसरा, I wanted to add, why is the UN and the international community not pushing for India to allow special procedures mandate holders of the UN Human Rights Council to be given free access into occupied Jammu and Kashmir? ये occupation और annexation के कवानीन हैं, conventions international including the Geneva Convention, and there are specific rules of what an occupation power can do और क्या वो नहीं कर सकता, और India has violated all those. And I want to call on the UK also, जिसने special sanctions laws बनाए after they left the EU. And why is the UK, because of business interests, not bothering to assert itself on the human rights issue? Because हमें कहा जाता है कि इंसानी हकूक एक central focus है of Western countries' foreign policies. लेकिन if you do not apply your own principles of foreign policy fairly across the board, and you cherry pick कि पाकिस्तान मुस्लिम मुल्क है, इसको तो दबाओ इंसानी हकूक पे, हिंदुस्तान से हमारी बहुत बिजनेस है, तो इस वास्ते जो मर्जी हिंदुस्तान करे, हमने कुछ नहीं कहना. This means that there is no respect for human rights by these Western states. And I want to make a special point. 2015, European Union Directorate General for External Policies provided a policy paper on how European EU member states should make policies in connection with occupation and annexation. और उसमें clearly amongst the principles एक था that every EU member state has to give a clear-cut statement that annexation will not be recognized. Where is that statement against India after 5th August annexation attempts by India? Where is it? I want to question the EU, which is raising all sorts of human rights issues about other countries of the world. Where is your statement against annexation, which you yourself have made as a policy doctrine? Then again, EU ने sanctions लगाई against what they said was illegal annexation of Crimea by Russia. अभी तक उन्होंने वो sanctions को renew किया है 2022 तक. Where are the sanctions against India for illegal annexation? These are questions that we need to ask. Why is there a duplicity of standards? Why is India allowed its fascist policies, the Hindutva policy, where it is targeting Kashmiris? And by the way, the change in demography is a war crime in an occupied territory according to the 4th Geneva Convention. Why has not anybody taken notice? Where is the UN? Where is the European Union with its high-minded human rights pontification that they do towards the rest of the world? So, देखें, इस तरह नहीं हो सकता कि you cherry pick EU कि इसके खिलाफ तो sanctions लगा दो क्योंकि इन्होंने violate किया है हमारी foreign policy doctrine, लेकिन हिंदुस्तान को करने दो जो करता है. और अब देखें, the UN Security Council has been given the presidency to India at a time when the Indian government is a Hindutva fascist regime similar to Nazis in Germany. So imagine, would the UN have allowed a Nazi regime to chair the UN Security Council presidency? Would they have allowed it to have the presidency? This hypocrisy has to be exposed, because we are going to get more lectures on human rights in our region from our Western democratic countries. So we need to be prepared and not be defensive and say, show us your intent by implementing जो आपने खुद अपने लिए rules और policies बनाई हैं, implement them against India and its occupation in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Because unless they do that, there is no credibility to their claims of human rights. And meanwhile, I also want to add, pellet guns are used for hunting animals. They are an inhumane weapon. जो बच्चों के खिलाफ आप यूज कर रहे हो और खवातीन के खिलाफ in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Cluster bombs are banned. इंडिया और पाकिस्तान दोनों ने साइन की हुई है व्हाट इज नोन पॉपुलरली एज द इनह्यूमेन वेपन्स कन्वेंशन. इंडिया इज यूजिंग क्लस्टर बॉम्ब्स. ये वही इंडिया है जिसने केमिकल वेपन कन्वेंशन साइन की थी और उससे पहले पाकिस्तान के साथ आपको याद होगा अंडर द बेनजीर regime they signed a bilateral chemical weapons convention and said we have destroyed all our chemical weapons. So jab chemical weapon international convention pata chali and everybody had to declare their stockpiles, pata chala India has huge stockpiles of chemical weapons. हर दफा हिंदुस्तान झूठ बोलता है इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी को और इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी डज नॉट गेट कॉल्ड आउट ऑन इट्स lack of response to India's illegal and rogue behavior. Ab cluster bombs are banned under the Inhumane Convention. Why nobody voice against the use of cluster bombs and pellet guns which are used for animals and are being used on children? Where is the human rights? Where are the voices of human rights? Why are they silent? This is the question as a Pakistani and as part of the government of Pakistan I want to pose to the European Union, to the UN, to the US and to the United Kingdom who keep pontificating on human rights and how human rights are being violated in so many countries. The biggest human rights violator, the rogue state of India today under the fascist Modi regime is being allowed to do as it pleases. Why? And I think our media should keep asking that question, why? Why to the West? Because they keep talking to us about human rights. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will conclude by saying that protecting fundamental human rights is not just a responsibility of the state. There are international obligations, there are international instruments, there are international mechanisms to ensure that they are protected, and I think they should be fulfilled. And I reiterate what Dr. Shireen has said, that the UN must compel India to allow access to special procedure mandate holders of the UN Human Rights Council for independent investigation of human rights violations that are taking place in the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Another point I would like to raise is that the UN Department of Peacekeeping Operations, they must make note the names of individuals and units in the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir who have been directly responsible for human rights violations. They should be identified, named, not just shamed, disallowed to be part of UN peacekeeping operations. So, I will conclude by making a few demands. One, India to stop human rights violations of Kashmiris. Two, proceed against the perpetrators who have been highlighted in this dossier. 3. Put an end to demographic change. 4. Lift military and digital siege. 5. Release all political prisoners. And 6. Allow unhindered access to the UN, to the Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission of the OIC, to independent journalists, human rights organizations and civil society organizations in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you.
Thank you. I understand the ministers and the NSA are available to take a couple of questions. Can we have a question from the end, please? Mr. Rama.
Thank you very much, sir. And indeed, it's awakening for all of us that how this perpetration of human rights violation is going on. But since 2014, RSS has successfully implemented its anti-Muslim, anti-minority agenda in mainland India as well as the occupied valley. Now, Nazi-inspired extremist Hindutva ideology inhibited with revenge and hate, torture and terror, is not a threat for the world community at large. We are talking of minority and the Muslims only. What do you think? Why the world is silent and the world is not making a big mistake, a blunder to face in the coming decades? Thank you.
Dekhiye, I think the world is. One has learned through history that the policy of appeasement does not work. And you see how everybody paid a huge price because a policy of appeasement was being pursued in the 30s when fascism was on the rise. This is the time that we want to jolt the conscience of the world, wake them up and tell them, act now before it's too late. These policies are not just destabilizing the region, they will have far-reaching implications. Policy of appeasement will not work. Yes, you have interests, but then you also pontificate, you believe in higher values. So if you believe in those higher values, then demonstrate and act now. Would like to add?
I'll just say one thing. We will actually take your audience again very soon to talk about this specific issue of the 1930s and what is happening now, because it is identical. We've gone into details of looking at this, and let's be very honest. देखिए, कुछ अरसा पहले तक आप सवाल पूछते थे तो प्राइवेटली भी वेस्टर्न दुनिया आपसे बात करके कहती थी जी नहीं ऐसा नहीं है, आप गलत कह रहे हैं. There is nobody today who behind closed doors defends what India is doing. I think we should be clear about this, because what is happening is so egregious that there is no possibility that anybody with a straight face can tell you that what Pakistan is saying is not correct. But they also then tell you, yes, we have economic interests, there are other reasons, this and that. That is the barrier that the world will have to break, not for Pakistan's sake, but for its own sake. This is exactly how Europe talked about Hitler, and then we saw what happened. So the point is, we are clear where this is going. The region is going to be affected first, but the entire world will be affected, and we will show you data to prove that this is identical. But I want to put it on record that there is nobody who can now talk about India with a straight face saying that what we are saying is not correct. Everybody acknowledges it. This is a change. Of course, when you see planes flying over the UK and Indian media talking about it as Afghanistan, heads hang in shame. That's all somebody can do.
Thank you. Can we have a question from the gentleman here in the second row?
Adil Abbasi from ARY. NSA Mohid Yusuf sir. This question is to you that though it is not directly related to this subject, today's subject, Indian role in Afghanistan is fully exposed in for 20 years now. It has been, we have seen that they are abetting terrorism inside Afghanistan, but also Pakistan, we know that, and we have discussed this number of times here in Pakistan and outside Pakistan, but world not taking it seriously. Why? I just want to know this fact. Because it's been almost 20 years we are raising this issue, Afghanistan and Kashmir. World silence we have seen, now it has commenced disinfo campaign to misguide the world about Pakistan's role in India. It has lied to the world about real situation in Indian occupied Kashmir. by sending MEPs from EU and several other tactics, why there is no condemnation of such brutal state hypocrisy yet?
देखिए, मैं आपसे थोड़ा सा डिसएग्री करूंगा। ये चीजें ओवरनाइट नहीं होती हैं। हमें पता है कि इंडिया के क्या दुनिया के साथ
बरहरास्त आपको इस्लामाबाद से दिखा रहे थे वफाकी वजीर खारजा शाह महमूद कुरैशी दीगर के हमरा न्यूज कॉन्फ्रेंस कर रहे थे। और स्टूडियो से फिलहाल के लिए इतना ही। मजीद बाखबर रहने के लिए हमारे साथ रहिए और देखते रहिए JNN न्यूज।
नहीं तेरा नशे